What began as a visa marriage turned into a shocking revelation. From rock bottom. This is a true story. The names and some events have been changed to protect the identity of those involved. You are listening to From Rock Bottom. Subscribe to the channel and keep respect in the comments. Do you have an inspiring story of overcoming challenges? Send it to us by email.
I married my best friend to help him get a visa. He said he was gay. He said it was just a favor, but on our wedding night, I started to wonder if he'd been lying about everything. Let's call him Leo. Well, I swear to God, the moment I met Leo, it was like, boom, like literal fireworks. Not romantic ones, I didn't fall for him or anything, but you know when you meet someone and it's just like instant chemistry, that where have you been my whole life kind of vibe. We met in this random salsa class I signed up for on a whim, like literally because I saw a flyer at the coffee shop and was having one of those I need to get out of my comfort zone moments. I was newly single, emotionally exhausted, and honestly just trying not to rot in my apartment watching sad girl TikToks with a glass of cheap wine in hand. So I show up awkward AF, already regretting everything, and there he is. Leo, black t-shirt, messy curls, this annoyingly perfect smirk, and okay, yeah, like really pretty eyes. But not in a I'm into you kind of way, more like you look like the kind of guy who has an unfair amount of charisma. And he was like, you look lost. First time? I was like, is it that obvious? And he just laughed and said, don't worry, I got you. I'm the unofficial welcoming committee. I didn't know it then, but that was so Leo. Smooth, playful, the kind of guy who always makes you feel like you're the only one in the room. And yeah, he told me right away that he was gay. Like, just dropped it in casual conversation while we were practicing basic steps. You're lucky, babe. You get the fun gay guy. I don't step on toes. I just spin people into happiness. I mean, I adored him instantly, not in a let's make out way, just like he was the person you want to sit next to at a party. That energy, addictive. He wasn't the stereotypical loud over-the-top type either. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but Leo was, I don't know, cool gay. Charismatic, a little mysterious, great sense of humor, dressed way too well for a Tuesday night dance class, and had that effortless confidence that makes people feel safe. Like, really safe. He was affectionate, but not too much. Flirty, but with boundaries. And somehow, like, magically, he made me open up. Way too fast. Within a month, we were texting every day, sending voice notes, sending memes, making late-night sushi runs, crying over our mutual bad luck in love. Except I cried more, and he just rolled his eyes and said, men are trash, babe, but you're gold. He became my person, my best friend, and I really thought that's all it would ever be. But, like, if you're here reading this, you probably know that's not where the story ends. When I met Leo, I wouldn't have guessed the weight he carried. He was all charm and wit and a kind of grounded calm that made you want to sit a little closer when he talked. We met in the most cliché of all places, a salsa dancing class I took on a whim, because I was tired of being stuck at home swiping left on dating apps and binge-watching trashy reality shows. He was my partner, that first day, tall, quiet, ridiculously polite with just enough of an accent to make every word he said sound like a line from a foreign film. He introduced himself as Leo, short for Leonid, and said he was from a small town in Eastern Europe. He didn't say much else at first, but there was something about him that felt honest. I can't explain it. We had that instant click, not romantic, not flirtatious, but something that made you feel like you already knew the person. Leo wasn't flamboyant like the stereotypical gay best friend the movies love to push, but when he told me he was gay weeks later, I was not genuinely surprised because, you know, we always know, right? At least I thought. He wasn't closeted exactly, but he wasn't out in the loud, expressive way you might expect in a liberal city like ours. He was private, careful, almost too careful. He never spoke about past flings or men he liked, and when I asked about his family, his entire face shifted. The air got heavier. "They don't know, and they never will," he said, almost like a whisper. He told me that back home, being gay wasn't just frowned upon, it was seen as a sickness. His town was religious, conservative, and full of people who didn't ask questions, didn't tolerate difference, and didn't forgive. He had spent most of his life pretending, watching how he walked, how he spoke, how much eye contact he made with men. He'd even trained himself to lower his voice. "If you let your wrist go limp or talk too fast, they notice," he once said. "It's like constant performance." And maybe that's why around me, he finally let himself breathe. We started spending more time together outside of class. What began as a weekly dance lesson turned into daily texts, long calls, and spontaneous hangouts. If I needed help assembling furniture, Leo was there. If I casually mentioned that my sink was leaking, he showed up the next morning with a wrench and a YouTube tutorial queued up on his phone. "You're not paying someone to fix that," he'd say, rolling his eyes. "Come on, you're a badass woman. You should know how to change a damn P-trap." So there we were, Saturday afternoon, under my kitchen sink, me holding the flashlight while he explained what a washer was and why plumbers overcharge. I was a mess, hair tied up, face smudged with dust, but we were laughing like idiots. That's what I remember most about our early days, the laughter. It was always so easy with him. He'd make these deadpan jokes that would catch you off guard, and then he'd give you that rare smile, the one where his eyes crinkled at the edges, and all that guardedness just melted away. And no matter what was going on in my life, toxic dating cycles, work stress, family drama, Leo was the one person who made it all feel a little lighter. We had sleepovers like teenagers. He taught me how to make goulash the way his grandma did with way too much paprika, and a long story about how she used to cook it over firewood. I taught him how to paint his nails black when he was in the mood to rebel quietly. He said it made him feel like himself, just not in public. He didn't trust easily, but somehow with me he did, and I didn't take that lightly. I'd been through my own share of messes, relationships that started off with spark and ended in confusion, guys who ghosted, breadcrumbed, emotionally manipulated me into thinking I was the problem. So when Leo came into my life stable, solid, real, it felt like the universe was finally giving me something good. And no, I wasn't attracted to him. Not like that. I didn't fantasize about kissing him or secretly hope he'd change his mind about women. That's not what it was. What we had was deeper than romance. It was home. He once told me, "You're the first person I've ever been completely myself with." And that broke me a little. Because he deserved to feel that way all the time, not just in stolen pockets of safety. I'd see the way he flinched when someone asked where he was from, or the way he stiffened at casual jokes from strangers like he was always waiting for judgment to hit. And yeah, maybe that's part of why I became so fiercely protective of him. He wasn't just my friend, he was my person. One night, after we fixed a broken curtain rod in my bedroom, I offered to order food. He refused. "Let's cook," he said. "I need to teach you how to chop onions without crying. You're too soft." We ended up dancing around the kitchen to a terrible playlist I made in college, stirring pasta sauce and talking about dreams. His dream was to stay here, to be free, to build a life without hiding. Mine was simpler. I just wanted to stop falling for people who couldn't love me right. We were an odd pair, but it worked. Somehow. And honestly, if anyone had told me back then where our story was heading, I would have laughed them out of the room. Because at that point, it was just Leo and me, best friends, messy, codependent, chaotic, but pure. Or at least, I thought it was. It was a Tuesday night. I remember because it was raining and Leo had tracked muddy footprints all over my hallway floor again. He was pacing around my kitchen barefoot, holding a cup of tea he never actually drank, while I was stretched out on the couch, half watching a rom-com I'd seen a dozen times before. He kept sighing, loudly, like performative sighing. "Okay, what?" I finally said, sitting up. "You've been pacing like a Sims character with low mood since you got here." He stopped, ran a hand through his hair, and leaned against the kitchen counter like the weight of the entire Eastern Bloc was on his shoulders. "I don't know if I can stay here much longer," he said quietly. I blinked. What do you mean, stay here? Like, here, in the apartment? No, I mean, like, here in the country. That's when he told me. His work visa was expiring in 4 months. The renewal process was hell, and even if he applied again, there was no guarantee he'd get it. He'd spoken to a lawyer. The options were limited. He either had to go back home to the same town that tried to shame the real Leo out of existence, or risk overstaying and becoming undocumented. My stomach dropped. I hadn't even considered that he might leave, that the person who had become the most stable, loyal, comforting presence in my life could suddenly vanish. Not because he wanted to, but because of paperwork. I stayed quiet while he spoke, not interrupting, just listening. He wasn't asking for anything. He wasn't fishing. He was just scared, and I could feel that in his voice. "I don't want to go back to hiding," he said. "You don't understand what that place does to you when you don't fit in. It's like breathing through a straw your whole life." That image broke me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking of every time Leo had fixed something in my apartment, or stayed up with me when I was crying over some guy who ghosted me, or taught me how to make dumplings from scratch, even though we burned half of them. And I started thinking, what could I actually do to help? The thought came in like a joke at first, absurd, ridiculous, totally insane. What if we got married? I mean, I was divorced already, not exactly in a rush to walk down any aisle again. Dating, sure, casual things here and there, but nothing serious, nothing that looked like commitment. That part of me was on ice. But this wouldn't be romantic. It wouldn't even be fake love. It would be a favor, a formality, a helping hand for someone who had given me so much of himself without ever asking for anything in return. Still, it felt too big, too serious, too illegal. I didn't even know. I Googled it a lot, read forums, watched YouTube videos. Apparently it wasn't uncommon. People did it all the time. Some got caught, some didn't. But that wasn't the point for me. It wasn't about beating the system. It was about making sure Leo didn't have to go back to a place that made him feel like a disease. A week later, we were having drinks at our favorite dive bar. Cheap beer, sticky tables, karaoke in the background. He was mid-rant about how Americans didn't know how to use a bidet, and I just blurted it out. "What if we got married?" He froze. "What?" I mean, think about it. I'm single. You're my best friend. I have zero desire to get married again for real. And this would literally change your life. We wouldn't even have to live together. We'd just go through the motions. He stared at me for a long time. "No," he said, shaking his head. "That's crazy. I can't ask you to do that." "You didn't ask," I said, sipping my drink. "I offered." His face softened. "You're not thinking clearly." "Oh, I'm thinking clearer than ever. Leo, what would I lose, really? I mean, sure, I'll have to pretend to like you in public, and maybe get yelled at by an immigration officer if they find out. But you get to breathe again." He didn't say yes that night. But something shifted. It was like the air between us got warmer. He smiled more. I caught him looking at me like I was a puzzle he was trying to figure out. And honestly, I liked it. Not in a romantic way, not even close. I wasn't falling for him, and I wasn't secretly hoping this would turn into a love story. I was just proud of the fact that I could be the one to offer him freedom, the same way he'd given me stability when I needed it most. 3 weeks later, he showed up at my door with a bouquet of sunflowers and said, "Let's do it. Let's get married." We didn't rush anything. I mean, it was rushed, technically, on paper, but emotionally, everything happened like a quiet little dance, one step at a time. Nobody was pushing. Nobody was making it weird. Well, mostly nobody. The people closest to us knew the deal. My sister knew, his roommate from grad school, a couple of my friends from work. All chill, supportive even. There was something about the whole thing that felt oddly wholesome. Like, yes, it was a fake marriage, but it came from a place of genuine affection and loyalty. People could feel that. So no one snitched, no one judged. They just smiled, played along, and gave us tips on how to make it look like love. "You'll need photos," one friend said. "Lots of them," another added. Make it messy, someone warned. Too perfect and they'll think it's staged. So we staged chaos. We recreated dates we never had. Wore pajamas and took selfies on the couch pretending it was Sunday morning. I wore a hoodie in pictures. He posted an Instagram story where he jokingly called me wifey. We even bought toothbrushes for each other and left them in a mug by the sink. Every now and then we'd laugh about it, like really laugh. But I could tell something was heavy for him. Leo got quieter. Not with me exactly, but with himself. Like there was a voice inside his head constantly whispering, "Don't mess this up." He was so careful. Too careful. He used to make these lighthearted gay jokes all the time. Nothing dramatic, just playful little jabs that made me laugh, but after we filed the paperwork, it all stopped. He became filtered. Sometimes I'd tease him like, "God, you're acting more straight now than any actual straight man I've ever dated." He'd chuckle, but there was tension under it. I knew it was about fear. He was from a tiny town in Eastern Europe. You couldn't even say the word gay out loud there without someone looking over their shoulder. He told me once that when he was 15, a kid from his school got beat up in the parking lot for wearing nail polish. Just nail polish. So yeah, I got it. I understood why this was more than just paperwork for him. This was survival. And on top of that, he wasn't dating. He wasn't even flirting. Not online, not in real life. He wasn't going out. Not to bars, not to meetups. Nothing. It was like he'd hit pause on his own desire, stuffed it into a drawer, and locked it up with a fake wedding ring on top. I started worrying about him. Not because I thought he was going to crack or spiral, but just because how long can someone live in a version of themselves that isn't real? One night, we were watching a dumb baking competition show, something with way too much glitter and melted fondant, and I caught him staring at the screen with this faraway look in his eyes. The kind of look that says, "I'm here, but not really." I muted the TV. "Leo?" He blinked. "Yeah? You okay?" He paused, then smiled. "Yeah, I'm just tired." But it wasn't just that. I knew it. He was lonely, he was scared, and he was carrying the pressure of pretending again, just like he had his whole life back home, just like he promised himself he'd never do again. That hurt. "You know you can be yourself with me, right?" I said gently. "Even now, even with all this. I don't care what anyone thinks." He looked at me then, really looked at me. "I know," he said quietly. "But sometimes I still feel like someone's watching, like if I slip up, it all disappears. And I go back." My heart broke a little. Because here we were, in a safe place, with people who loved us, in a country that was supposed to mean freedom, and he still couldn't breathe all the way in. I didn't say anything else that night, just reached out and held his hand, not romantically, not dramatically, just in solidarity, because this fake marriage wasn't fake in all the ways. Some parts of it were real, the friendship, the protection, the trust. I was all in, and I needed him to feel that. Even if the rest of the world couldn't know the full truth, we did. Leo treated me like I'd saved his life. I mean, in some ways I kind of had, but still there was this constant quiet weight in the way he looked at me. Like he was always trying to repay a debt he couldn't name. He was overly thoughtful, almost awkwardly grateful. At first, I found it sweet. Then it started to feel a little heavy. I'd tease him sometimes. "Leo, it's fine. Chill. I'm not the Messiah." He'd smile sheepishly, but never really drop the guilt. Anyway, we did everything by the book, or at least by the pretend book. We made sure the story was airtight. When everything looked perfect on paper, we started planning the wedding. It was all so fast. 2 months and boom, we were getting married. We didn't want anything over the top, just something beautiful and believable. We picked a charming little house near a lake for the ceremony. My family came. They absolutely adored Leo. Of course they did. He was charming, respectful, helpful, everything you'd want for your daughter, except for the minor detail that, well, he was gay and this was all an act. But to them, It was like a Hallmark movie. I wore white. He looked incredible in a light gray suit. The flowers were simple and wild. The lighting was golden and soft, and the air smelled like pine and champagne. There was a kind of magic to it, even if we both knew it wasn't real. And the photos. Oh, we made sure to take 1,000 of them. Photos holding hands, laughing at inside jokes, feeding each other cake, a slow dance with my head on his chest, a toast where he kissed my forehead. Looking back, it looked like love. And maybe, just maybe, a small part of me wished it were. The wedding night was supposed to be just a formality. We didn't book a hotel or anything, just drove back to our apartment. It was almost midnight, and we were both tipsy and exhausted. I went to take off my makeup. He stayed in the living room. When I came back out, I saw him on the phone, speaking in his native language. It was the first time I'd ever heard him speak it out loud. Harsh, rapid syllables that sounded almost aggressive, even though I couldn't understand a word. He didn't notice me right away, but I noticed him. The way he was pacing, the tone of his voice, it wasn't happy or excited. It wasn't, I just got married energy. It was tense, nervous, almost cold. And then, just like that, he turned and saw me. His face shifted instantly. Smile, sweetness, like flipping a switch. "Hey," he said, covering the receiver. "Just my cousin." He ended the call quickly, then asked if I wanted tea. And I didn't ask right away. I let it go. But it bugged me. Later, curled up under the covers, I finally asked, "Did you tell your family?" There was a beat of silence. He didn't look at me. "No," he said quietly. "Not yet." "Because they wouldn't approve?" He nodded. "They think I'm still with someone else, from back home." It was such a vague answer. Something about it didn't sit right. I knew his family didn't know he was gay, but I had assumed he would at least mention he got married, even if it was a lie or a watered-down version. Instead, it was like none of this existed in his other life. And maybe that should have been the first real red flag. But I brushed it off. I told myself I was being paranoid, that it was none of my business how he navigated his personal life with his family. I wasn't his real wife after all. I had no right to feel disappointed or confused. Still, something shifted that night. The celebration had ended. The smiles had faded. And what was left was a silence between us that hadn't been there before. After the wedding, something changed. No, he changed. Leo, the guy who used to fix leaky sinks at midnight and argue with me about the best kind of flour for pancakes, started acting like a guest in his own home. He'd come in late, always when I was already in bed. And in the mornings, gone. Like a ghost. No coffee, no good morning, no stupid joke about my bedhead. It was like he disappeared, but his body was still using my apartment as a hotel. At first, I told myself it was just post-wedding tension. Maybe the whole thing felt more real than we'd anticipated. Maybe he was scared of being found out, or just overwhelmed by the pressure of pretending. But the worst part was, we didn't talk about it. We used to talk about everything, but now I was afraid to bring it up. Because what would I even say? "Hey, you're acting weird and distant and like a stranger, and it's making me feel weird too, even though technically we're fake married and none of this should matter." Right. That would have gone over great. Still, one night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I was curled up on the couch, watching an old rom-com, and I realized I didn't even know if Leo was coming home that night. That thought hit me like a slap. Not because I was worried about him cheating or whatever, but because I missed him. I missed my friend. So I did the awkward thing. I texted him, "Hey, you okay? Are we okay?" He didn't respond right away. Hours passed. Then finally, "Yeah, just working a lot lately." Which was technically true. He was working a lot, but I didn't get it. I mean, he'd just solved the biggest problem of his life, the visa. He was finally safe, stable, free. So why was he vanishing? Why was he acting like he owed the world something and had to sprint to repay it? And it's not like he was drowning in rent. We were roommates now, technically spouses, yes, but financially, the load had been cut in half. He wasn't under pressure anymore. So what was this really about? I thought about asking again, but I didn't. Because somewhere deep down, I was scared he'd think I wanted more from him, that I was demanding attention, that I was pulling a wife card in something that wasn't supposed to be that. And so, I let it go. I went to work. I saw my friends. I kept myself busy. I figured he was just going through something and didn't want to talk about it. And honestly, that should have been fine. I mean, this wasn't a real marriage. Except, it kind of was. At least, it used to feel like something real in the way we laughed, shared dinners, fixed things, supported each other. Now it felt like I was living with a shadow, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't being said. I didn't mean to snoop. Seriously, I didn't. But that night, Leo left his laptop open on the kitchen counter, screen on, email inbox wide open. And I swear I was just going to close it. Just a quick tap of the trackpad, nothing more. Until I saw the subject lines. They weren't in English. In fact, I didn't recognize the language right away. But I did recognize the frequency, dozens of emails, all from the same address. And the name in the signature line appeared over and over again. Curious? Sure, but also suspicious. Because for someone who never talked about his personal life back home, especially after we got married, it felt off. So yeah, I clicked. At first, I didn't understand a word. His native language, something from Eastern Europe, looked like a mix of sharp consonants and symbols I couldn't pronounce. But thank God for Google Translate. And once I started translating, my stomach dropped. It was all there. All of it. He wasn't gay. He wasn't single. He wasn't just escaping oppression. He was married, with 2 kids. And not only did his wife know about me, she was in on it. The whole plan, the wedding, the photos, the acting of being in love, all of it had been coordinated, carefully, strategically, to get him a green card. Once you get the permanent residency, we'll come. I'll sell the apartment and bring the boys. One of the emails said that. I stared at it so long I think the words burned into my brain. And another, she seems to like you. That's good. Keep it going until it's done. You're almost there. I felt sick. Like I was watching my own life from outside my body. Like everything had been scripted without me knowing, and I'd just been playing the role of the helpful American woman without even auditioning. I wanted to scream. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to cry. And I think I did all 3 in that order, sitting on the kitchen floor at 1:30 in the morning with the glow of his laptop casting this eerie blue light across my shaking hands. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, when he came home same as always, early, like a ghost I was waiting for him, laptop closed, face calm. Inside, I was boiling. I didn't even say good morning. I just said, "Who's Anna?" He froze. And that was all the answer I needed. I didn't need the details. I didn't want the excuses. But he gave them anyway. Said her name. Said, "My wife," like it wasn't the most absurd thing he could have said in that moment. And yeah, he admitted it. Admitted the marriage. Admitted the kids. Admitted that yes, I had been part of the plan. But, and this was the part that made me want to throw something, he insisted that the whole gay thing hadn't been a lie to trick me into marrying him. "I didn't want to seduce you," he said. "I didn't want to fake a romance. I thought, if you saw me as gay, it would feel safer, cleaner, no pressure, no emotional complications." That was when I actually laughed. Because in a twisted way, it was kind of considerate. He could have tried to charm me, seduce me, manipulate me romantically, but instead, he pretended to be my harmless gay best friend, just to win my trust, like that was somehow less cruel. "I wanted to be your friend," he added. And I was. I swear I was. I never lied about that part. But it was too late. Because when someone builds trust on a lie, even if the friendship part was real, it all falls apart anyway. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. Didn't throw things or call him names. I just told him to leave. I didn't care where he went. I just needed him out of my space. Out of my life. Out of my head. We haven't spoken since. And yeah, I'm still processing it. Sometimes I think about the nights we laughed until we cried, fixing the sink or dancing like idiots in the living room. Sometimes I wonder if any of that was real. And maybe parts of it were. But the truth is I was a pawn. I was the bridge he needed to cross. And once he got to the other side, he never looked back. It hurts. It really does. But at least now, I know better. And no matter how twisted that chapter was, I'm the one who closed it. Not him. Me. He left. And that was it. No dramatic goodbye. No apology that could fix it. Just a quiet exit after I asked him to go. And maybe that was all I could handle. Silence, distance, closure. The government didn't investigate. No red flags were ever raised. And as far as I know, after the required time passed, he got his permanent residency. He got what he wanted. Maybe his wife and kids are here now, somewhere in this vast country. Maybe they're living a beautiful, peaceful life near a park or a good school. Maybe he's even building a small business, coaching soccer, doing dad things. I don't know. And honestly, I don't want to know. Sometimes I wonder if that makes me bitter, but it doesn't feel like bitterness. It feels like self-preservation. Because even though I never filed a report, never exposed him, never burned his life to the ground the way he had mine, I still had to carry the wreckage, the emotional aftermath, the betrayal, the guilt of almost believing it was my fault. I didn't trust easily after that. How could I? I had believed in a friendship that felt real. I had laughed with him, lived with him, literally married him even if it was just on paper, and told myself I was doing something good, something kind, something brave. And instead, I became a prop in someone else's story. But here's what I held on to, what kept me from sinking into cynicism. I chose to help. I did it from a place of love, and that will never be something to be ashamed of. Life moved on. It always does somehow. I found a new apartment, got a cat, made new friends, slowly started to smile again in a way that felt real, not like a performance. And eventually, I let someone in. Not immediately. God, no. For a long time, even a kind text from someone felt like a trap. I'd overthink everything, afraid I'd fall into another illusion. But then, a small conversation turned into dinner, and dinner turned into consistency. No games. No secrets. Just normal. We've been together for 2 years now. And it's not fireworks every day. It's not some magical fairy tale, but it's honest. We talk, we laugh, we argue too, but we always come back to each other. And that's enough. More than enough. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about Leo. Not with anger, not anymore, but with a strange mix of sadness and detachment. Like remembering someone from a dream, someone who could have been family, who could have stayed in my life forever, as a friend, a brother, a partner in crime. But he made a choice. He lied. He broke a bond I held sacred. And in doing that, he didn't just get what he wanted, he lost something too. He lost me. And that's how I like to think of it. Not as me being used or discarded, but as him losing something precious. Because I know what kind of friend I am. I know how loyal I can be, how much I give when I care. And if he ever thinks back on our time together on the dances in the living room, the IKEA furniture we built, the stupid inside jokes, I hope he feels something. Not regret exactly, but a quiet knowing. I had someone good, and I let her go. No, I wasn't healed by that whole experience. I still have my scars. Still get a lump in my throat when trust feels risky. Still flinch a little when someone calls me too nice, like that's a flaw. Still sometimes feel like the fool who got played in the most elaborate performance of her life. But I also feel proud, because I didn't let it make me hard. I didn't close off. I didn't let one man's manipulation rewrite the way I see the world. People are still good. Most of them anyway. And if someone knocks on my door tomorrow and needs help, maybe I won't hand them a fake marriage certificate. But I'll still offer kindness, still listen, still show up. Because that's who I am. And that's something no one can take away from me.